In this presentation, I will introduce you to social media for research. I hope I'm able to explain to you why and how it is important to establish your digital footprint and issues that you need to be aware of. At the end of this presentation, I will leave you with some tasks to carry out. Now, the content of this presentation is based on the Handbook of Social Media for Researchers and Supervisors, which was published by Vitae in 2012. If you're not aware of this organization, I would suggest you find out more about it because they do run additional training courses, and these are particularly important for researcher development. So, what is social media? Before we define social media, let's talk about the evolution of the web. It's important for you to understand why this version of the web, Web 2.0, is different from what was the web. So the initial phase of the web was referred to as the readable web because it was text-rich and we could read lots of information on information portals. And it was a passive web because that's all we did. We received information. And there was little opportunity to post reviews or make comments or provide feedback or interact in any way. Web 2.0 is the social web. It's the interactive web, and it's referred to as the writable web. And the key difference is that Web 2.0, the social web, allows users to interact more freely, to network, to collaborate, and it encourages participation as well as information sharing. So applications such as YouTube, wikis, Flickr, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, etc. Well, we've moved from a very static web, a very text-rich web, to a Web 2, which is much more of an interactive web where we're asking for feedback, where we're having discussions, where we're talking to each other, perhaps in bite-sized chunks, but we are having dialogues, and perhaps that's leading to more networking and collaboration. So that's the Web 2.0, that's the interactive web, and that's the social web. That is the state in which the web is at the present time. You can read these definitions from the Social Media Handbook in your own time. But the question to ask is, how does all this benefit researchers and research dissemination? There are lots of academics now who are convinced of the use of social media, as well as research centres associated with higher education institutions. You just have to look at the IOA London Twitter account to see how prevalent the whole issue of disseminating research has become. This quote from an article by the ecologist Gaston Small in the journal Nature summarizes how new technologies are changing the way in which research dialogues are being conducted. Now, although Small mentions social media for scientists, it's equally true of any research area. And what he's really saying is that now we're forced to think about how we share ideas with the broader audience. And this is the audience that ultimately pays for most of our research, and that is the taxpayers. And increasingly, funding bodies ensure that part of the funding requirements are that the researcher is able to disseminate information about their research in language that is accessible to the public. So public conversations about research make researchers accountable for delivering something of value to those taxpayers. And this is particularly important in this particular time when we have had significant budget cuts and where, in fact, what he's also talking about is where early career researchers will have to be effective ambassadors for the profession. Now, he says that this kind of conversation manifests itself with, say, family members or strangers sitting next to us on a plane, or we may be posting videos or tweeting or blogging about the ongoing research. So it's important that we are actually talking to people we know as well as to the general public. But what Small also emphasizes in this quote is that the days of researchers communicating only with each other, perhaps through peer-reviewed journals, in languages that are specific to a particular discipline, etc., is now coming to an end. And this is primarily because of the influence of the social web and the influence of blogging or microblogging platforms as Twitter. So what's the evidence to indicate that academics and early career researchers are starting to use and see the benefits of using social media to stay current and to engage with the public? Well, this report provides a snapshot of what's happening globally. And I will leave you to read this report in your own time. If, as this figure states, only 25% of academic research is published in mainstream avenues, that is, in academic journals, then I could truly say that it may be difficult to rely just on established methods of evaluating impact. One has to consider alternative metrics, not just citation analysis, which is what is the practice at the moment. Now, these alternative metrics allow you to gauge impact in the social media sites, what is being downloaded, what links have been clicked on, what's been bookmarked, what exactly is being spoken about or discussed on social media. So impact is no longer just about publishing in peer-reviewed journals, but it is about alternative metrics on social media, which look at what's being talked about on the social web. As a PhD student, you're on your way to becoming an early career researcher, or perhaps you have already published and are already an established researcher. But it is important for you to have a digital presence in this world today. When handled correctly, as this quote states, you can use it to enhance your personal brand, establish your expertise, or demonstrate your digital fluency. Make sure at a minimum that you have a LinkedIn account with a completed profile, but do try tweeting or blogging about your research area of expertise. And you are going to be experts in your research area because you're reading established literature, but with a new lens, the lens of your research question. And therefore, you'll be creating content that others can forward, retweet, or repost. And this is going to help you establish yourself as an expert in your field. So, social networking will provide you with an opportunity to create a digital identity so that you can use it to disseminate research to the public and reach people that you would not normally. And this is an excellent way in which to find a future employer. And you can begin a dialogue with other researchers, including the government and the public. You can use it to network and collaborate, and you can promote yourself and establish yourself as an expert in your research area. That's creating your digital footprint. But remember to keep your footprint professional. One of the things you need to remember is that your copyright and intellectual property rights are really important. Be careful about what you put up. Read the terms and conditions of the site carefully before you give away your life's work. Find out who owns the copyright. Is it the site itself, or do you keep your intellectual rights? And do not divulge personal names, as that would be in breach of agreements, whether they're with individuals or whether they're contrary to your institution's ethics approval process. Acknowledge the content of others, understand the copyright law and the Creative Commons licenses, and there is a LibGuide specifically on that topic. And if you're a little shy about what to put up, remember, include it as part of your workflow. You're already creating new knowledge. You're going to get it quality assured in a sense because you're constantly going to see your supervisor. You will be going through the upgrade process, and you will be getting your PhD. And during these different stages, you may want to establish your blog, establish your Twitter account, and tell others what you're doing. This is part of disseminating knowledge, not just in established methods, but also using social media. And how do you do it? There's a lot of different social media sites, but start small. And as I've said, start with Twitter and then expand and move on to creating a LinkedIn profile, and then move on to perhaps looking at Google Scholar and creating a Google Scholar profile. Look at Mendeley, look at Academic EDU, put bookmarks on Delicious and Listly, etc., etc. Make use of the IOA LibGuide, Social Media for Researchers. It has some fun things like Remember the Milk and Evernote, and I'm going to leave you to look at that rather than explain what they are. And another guide, The Digital Researcher. Well, I hope this presentation has been useful. Thank you for listening.